Faster by. Good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line today. We're talking tourism with two tourism professionals. Dave Mackey and Jed Power are on Manx Radio, and if you want to chat, talk about tourism, visiting the Isle of Man, then by all means do get in touch. Of course, once upon a time, we lived and breathed the visiting trade. 600,000 odd people arrived a year. The apotheosis, the high point, was just before the First War, so it was a slow decline. After Millennium Year in 1979, we kind of fell off a cliff. But we have reinvented ourselves with niche tourism nowadays, so I just wonder what your thoughts are. Jed Power, Faster My. Hi, Jed.
Good afternoon, Andy.
So, just give us a little idea of what Jed Power is in the hospitality and the tourism trade. What do you do?
I have a busy year. Fundamentally, it was the golf holidays business, but I got into minibuses and taxis and transport, and that opens the door for cruise ship visitors and just visitors to the Isle of Man. So I get to meet all kinds of visiting groups. It's been a busy year, and it's a lot of fun. It's probably one of the best jobs on the island.
Okay, and Dave Mackey, where do you fit in, Dave?
My family have owned the Ascot Hotel for 40-odd years. I'm a qualified Blue Badge tour guide. I've got my own taxi business and hopefully a full-time proponent of positivity in tourism.
So what led you to do this? Why did you become a tour guide?
You're always asked questions when you run a hotel about where to go, what's this, what's that. And I always thought that I knew the Isle of Man, and it wasn't until I was lucky enough to get enrolled onto the course that I found out what the Isle of Man was all about from historical point of view. Economically, it's amazing, and the Isle of Man has got such a great story to tell. I'm very lucky that I have the knowledge now that I can pass that on to our visitors.
What have you learned lately? Do you learn stuff all the time about the island?
Yeah, I'm always looking for. It's a bit like doing a stand-up routine, really. You're always looking for new material. I'm always looking for little stories and little nuggets of information that you can refer to and just throw in haphazardly.
And Jed, so in terms of golf holidays, without giving commercial secrets away, but are you busy? How many do you do?
Oh, we have hundreds of golfers visiting the island each year, each summer. You know, I've got 2 visiting groups next week. I mean, it looks after itself. The product that we've got, 8 great golf courses. It's a bit quirky, and it's an alternative now to, Spain and Portugal, which are really expensive. So my golfers can come over here on the boat from the northwest of England in their droves, and it's good. It's, as we know, the golfers can eat and drink like crazy. They're spending over £100 a day on booze, and you know what? After a heavy night, they can still enjoy the game the following day.
So, do you liaise with the golf courses and the golf clubs, or do they make their own way? What do you do?
Oh no, I do the whole package really, and that's through the website, and I've been doing it for over a decade. So it's simple, great relationships with the golf courses and the hotels, but also the bars and restaurants, because if you're bringing in, say, a party of 16 very hungry, very thirsty golfers, that's like could be £1,000 in the kitty, on a weekday night. So it works well right across the board.
In terms of repeat business, how does that work?
It works very well, yeah, and word of mouth, so I don't have to invest too much in marketing. I'm really happy with the way things are, but also it's experience the other tourism markets that we've got means that you just see the potential, like Dave has said. It's a fantastic island to, work with.
What's the, all right, I'll put you on the spot, best golf course on the Isle of Man?
They all have their own merits. You've got the challenge of Castletown. That's the iconic, place on the Langness Peninsula, an area of special scientific interest and so forth. But we've got 7 other courses, and they always get a big friendly welcome. And when you're on tour, you don't really mind. You're out for a game of golf, another adventure somewhere different. And with going around the different component parts of the island, you've got that to tackle. But what I will say is that the best course could have been at Bride, but that's another story.
Glen Truan.
Absolutely. But
yes.
There we go.
You don't want to go any further?
No, we'll park that one.
Okay, let's get to the phones now. Mark's with us first of all. Hi, Mark.
Hello, mate. How you doing?
Good, thanks.
Right, I just want to basically say that, what is the point of the tourism industry? I mean, it achieves nothing. Apart from the TT and the Manx Grand Prix, there is no tourism industry on the Isle of Man. In my opinion, the government are relying far too much on those 2 institutions, and eventually, with all these green zealots crying their eyes out about everything. Eventually, every bike on the world will be green. They'll be electric. I mean, Kawasaki and Ducati are already developing electric bikes. Nobody's going to come to the Isle of Man when they have that. But what I'm ringing up basically to say is, I've got that rant out the way, is I spoke to you before about this, Andy, a few months back, when I quoted you various prices from the Mail on Sunday for holidays in Europe. I mean, I'll quote you again now. 8 nights in Rome, $319. 8 nights in Lisbon, $319. 8 nights in Prague, $299. And all of those include flights and 4-star accommodation. In the same paper, you had 8 nights on the Isle of Man, including ferry and 3-star hotel, £900. Why would anybody want to come here when you can have Lisbon, Prague, and the most beautiful city in the world, Rome, for a third of the price of this place?
Okay, Dave Mackey.
Hi, Mark. I think you raised some good points. People come to the Isle of Man for all sorts of reasons, not just TT or Grand Prix. They come here for our heritage railway, our beautiful scenery, our history, walking, biking. They come here for all sorts of reasons. So it isn't a city break. I did go to Lisbon myself about 15 years ago, and I had a bad ankle, and all I remember about it is it was full of cobbled streets, and I was in agony the whole time. So
first things first, though, Dave. I mean, to people who live on the Isle of Man, tourists may seem often invisible. We don't know. So how many? I mean, how many typically have we got? We got lots.
Well, there is a tourism industry out there. Let's put that to bed. It's not just about the TT and the Grand Prix. It's just not as in your face as maybe it was 50, 60 years ago when we had the Bucket and Spade Brigade or the remnants of the Bucket and Spade Brigade. It is a lot more niche. It is a lot more special interest. But I'm sure if you spoke to any hotel operator between April and the end of October, they're fairly happy with their occupancy levels. It's the shoulder periods and the winter season where it kind of dies a death a little bit that needs reinvigorating. So, Mark, there is a tourist industry. There is more to the Isle of Man than the TT and the Manx Grand Prix, as our visitors appreciate.
Like Jed?
Oh gosh, it's jobs, isn't it? Right across the promenade, hotels. It's food and drink sales. I think without it, we'd be stuck and we'd all miss out. But no, there's great value, and if you look at the occupancy rates with our hotel partners, they're in good shape during the seasonal summer months.
Okay, Mark, final word.
No, seriously, the pair of them are delusional if they think that. I mean, I've spoke to various hoteliers on this island, and most of them are literally scrabbling around to try and make ends meet. We don't have a tourist industry, irrespective of what them two say, and it doesn't matter whether we have people saying, "Oh, come to the Isle for a walk." Why come here when you can go to the Lake District? You can go to the Peak District. You can go to the Yorkshire Dales for the price of a train ticket. Come to the Isle of Man. It's going to cost you £300 before you've even got here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Andy, but the tourist industry on this Isle of Man is just non-existent.
Okay,
sorry,
well, we'll be interested because Deborah Heather's going to be in a few weeks' time, the boss of Visit Isle of Man, so we'll see. Just in terms of the steam packet and cost of getting here, is that anything that you get quoted, Dave?
It's obviously a bit of a sensitive issue at the minute because we've got a brand new singing all whistles vessel. So pricing, I think we need to keep an eye on this as an industry, just to make sure that prices aren't going up exponentially and above inflation rates.
Because the steam packet always quote like for like. They'll compare it with other jurisdictions, Condor in Jersey and what have you, and they say we come out like for like. Of course, against the cross-channel ferries, because we don't have the weight of numbers and the critical mass, it's more expensive because we don't have hundreds of thousands of people travelling all the time. Jed?
I think you've just got to understand that people want to spend money on holidays and they make a choice. It's not a race to the bottom. And if you can come to the Isle of Man on a foot passenger ticket, say for 60, 70 quid, well, you compare that to the crazy train prices in the UK. So we'll just, dispel that argument. We get great business, and with this new boat, this new vessel where we're providing almost like a cruise ship adventure. The holiday actually starts at the pier head. We won't go into the sea terminal, of course, but in pure luxury. And I think, we shouldn't really get blinkered by this cost issue. Let's look at the figures and let's look at the data.
Okay, Julian, hi, you're live with Jed and Dave.
Hi, Andy, and hello, Dave, and hi, Jed.
Hi,
Hello.
Julian.
I bet tourism's doing all right on the island today, though, although I do sympathise with the previous caller. The costs don't make a lot of sense, but we'll try to do better. I was thinking about another island that is popular for tourism, and that's Rhode Island in the United States. And if you look on the net, you'll see, if you look for Rhode Island Sunrise Wind Project, brings up lots of news items on the widespread anger amongst the tourist industry and the fishing industry over a proposed huge Sunrise wind farm. Are you concerned that industrial-scale wind farms on and offshore here will have a severe impact on Manx tourism? And I know, Dave, you said about beautiful scenery, but if you've got Mike Profit talking about 100 massive turbines on the island, do you think this will have a negative impact on whatever tourism we've got?
I didn't really want to go down the wind farm route, Julian, to be honest. All I would say is it's nice to look at a nice view unencumbered without a windmill farm, isn't it? That's my opinion. I don't know enough about wind farms to sort of pass comment on it, and I know other people within government are spending a lot of time on this, including the minister who I bumped into this morning.
Okay, Jed?
I think we don't want to destroy our beautiful landscapes. I think everyone can agree on that. But I think when we look out to sea, we've got a bank of wind farms there. And why not just put a layer of 8 windmills if that's what it takes? But, I mean, there's a whole range of issues regarding this. I don't think there'll be any action on wind farms for 2 years or more. So I think we'll just put that one to bed if we can.
Okay, thanks, Julian. And here's Nikki with us. Hi, Nikki.
Hello. I thought you'd have a different spelling today.
Yes.
I've just phoned up because I was quite surprised that somebody seems to think we don't have a tourism industry. As a B&B owner for 17 years, I can definitely say we do have a tourism industry. But I think what we've been trying to say to the government is have a look at the people that do have some money who are wanting to come to the Isle of Man, and it's very much in America. And I've just looked at the calendar, and this month coming in, we've got 7 people coming to stay from America and Canada, and we've got 2 lots coming in from Australia. And I've got 6 ancestral tours to do in that because people want to come back to the Isle of Man and they want to find out where they come from.
What sort of things do people on ancestral tours do?
So they try and find out where the person who came to America, where they lived in the Isle of Man. Do you know where Muggles Gate is in Douglas?
Muggles Gate, isn't it? It's the connection between the back of Victoria Street to Lord Street.
Yep, it's where the car park is next to the Calf restaurant. Skip Corris came over from America, wanted to come to the Isle of Man for years. I went into the local information that we've got on the island, 1841. They're registered in Muggles Gate. Thankfully, there's lots of great records. I found it and he went. And he's gone back to America this week, happy as Larry that he knows where he came from. But we've got so many. We've got Christians, we've got loonies. I've got a lady coming in who knows that her family lived here, but she doesn't have enough details. We've got a guy here coming in whose mum and dad in the 60s owned a coach company down in Port St Mary. So, I get what they're saying about the price, and it is expensive to get here, but there is a market of people that do have money are willing to pay.
And just tell me, if you could, Nikki, what was the name of the person who was looking for Muggles Gate? Who were they?
Skip Corris.
Okay, and what mood was Skip in when he found all this out?
Oh, he was delighted. He's now in his 70s, and he knew his family came from the Isle of Man, which is like everybody that comes with a Manx surname, that they're very proud that they're from the Isle of Man. But he had no idea that we had all of this information here. And he's gone back, and it will just go round. And the thing is, he's on the Isle of Man Family History Society Facebook page, which has got a great audience worldwide. And he goes back and is very enthusiastic online about telling them, how a great time he had in the Isle of Man, what he's seen, how much information's here. So, that's just a little ripple effect. But the tourism and the government seem to just want to ignore that. And we've been trying to push them to say, look, there's a whole big American market out there who want to come here. When people come over, not necessarily people that have got relatives, but they want to do the Celtic connection. So they go to Ireland, they go up to Scotland, and what's in the middle? the Isle of Man. So why aren't we putting ourselves on the map to the people that can afford to come from America and, get them to come and see what happened here in, Viking times. We've got a rich history, and it's just not been targeted at the right market that can afford to come.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
All right, it's good to hear from you. So, Dave, I can ask you then, in terms of accommodation, obviously Nikki's got the place in Peel, but in terms of accommodation, how do we stack up in terms of high-end accommodation and budget accommodation?
Well, firstly, thanks for Nikki for phoning in. I mean, she's doing a job of a blue badge tour guide there. I think maybe she should consider enrolling for next year when the next recruitment is. The hotel stock is probably as good as it's been on the island. Sine die. You've still got investiture going on. Keith Lord has got permission to build in town there at Lord Street.
This is the old Salvation Army Citadel.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
yeah. It's
Keith Lord. We have to just put it in perspective. He's the guy who put the Mannin Hotel back on Broadway.
Yeah, and he's got an annex further up there. The hotel products are fine. The problem is if tourism burgeons, as I envisage it going to in the next 15 to 20 years, we're going to need more hotel stock. So operators out there, keep investing in your product. It's all good from this end. Keep the positive vibes going. Keep investing.
Well, I mean, obviously you've got personal experience of that because Norman Mackey and the Ascot Hotel. Norman came over and put his life into that place.
He put his heart and soul into. In 1979, we came over the millennium, which was probably the peak of tourism in the 70s. Yeah, Dad and myself, we invested a lot into it. My father's still there. He's in his 80s. He's amazing.
And of course, just down the road there was Peter George and
Peter
his son,
and Michael's probably
Wall.
listening. Michael's invested as well. So there's a lot of second generation families who have been here for a long time, who are still invested in tourism and are still doing a good job.
Okay, Juan's on now. Hi, Juan.
Hey, Andy, how are you doing? Jed, David, how are you?
All right, you're on now.
Hi, Jed. Hi, Dave. How are you?
How you doing?
Yeah. I was walking down the promenade last night, actually, and it was great to see some vibrancy of how it used to be. A lot of tourists around, walking around. I would imagine it's most of the coach trips that's filling the hotels up at the moment on the shoulder of the season. But it was great to see a bit of an ambience there and the singers in the pubs like they used to be, which was great. And I've been involved on the periphery of the tourist industry for quite some time, having the Mirrored Park back in the 80s and also doing some Airbnbs. So your previous call, I think, had a point there. I mean, when I used to get people in from Europe and the States, they very, very much want to go down the Celtic route and the historic route. And I think we're very, very close. We could be very close to a turning point for tourism here. And I picked up, Dave, on what you said there on your vision in the next few years. I don't know what you put that down to, but I've always thought that we could turn a corner and make a uniqueness here. But I wanted to touch with you on a few things of like how the government would say our journey and pathway to the future of this. And one of my points would be going to Charles Gard's video of certain places around the island, and especially the promenade, looking down Douglas Promenade last night. I mean, it's so untidy on the promenade side of things. I mean, obviously there's buildings that need doing as well, but just the actual look, the aesthetics of the railings fallen, the blown to pieces, weeds growing through the sand. So I was wanting to know your point on that, what we need to do to move forward with that as a group. And also your points on the length of the Grand Prix now. How did you find that, tourism-wise, for spending the economy now that the time of the MGP has been limited?
Dave?
With the issue with the promenade, I think we're asleep at the wheel at certain points. I think that video that you referred to that Charles Gard made, I think Charles did more in that 10 or 15-minute video than any politician's done in the last 3 or 4 years. So.
But he hated making that. I mean, Charles came on the show and he just said it. I'm not saying it moved him to tears, but he hated doing it because he loves the Isle of Man, and he just doesn't like the state that it's in.
Absolutely, and it took a lot for him to do that, but he really highlighted a severe deficiency within the department. Yes, but going back to the positivity that you raised, and yes, I was on the promenade myself last night, having an alfresco drink and a bit of tapas. With that new place that's open, and it's magnificent. It really is. It was like the French Riviera last night, and it's the same again today. Looking out the window here, and regarding the Grand Prix, you can understand why the government have tried to shorten it, because to reduce running costs over a fortnight is obviously expensive. But if the weather doesn't play ball, it gives no wiggle room, and the roads are closed all the time. And of course, when the roads are closed, there's no spend, so there's no kickback to the hospitality industry. So somebody within the industry said to me the other week, he sort of said, well, we don't mind the disruption with the closed roads for the TT because there's a kickback for the island. With the Grand Prix this year, that wasn't the case. So in my opinion, I think it has to go back to the fortnight or nothing at all. I think it's that clear.
Jed Power?
I think some of the visitors did feel a bit shortchanged, but we've got to look at the event as a whole. So when there is bad weather and there's delays, it's about what else is going on, what après-bike activities are going on. I think the whole TT brand needs a bit of an injection. I mean, we'll talk about, when you're a tour guide and you go up to the grandstand and we kind of paper over the cracks and you think, well, why can't there be a statue there or a roll of honour or something to refer to or somewhere that is a photo point or places.
Why haven't we got a TT museum as well? I mean, what is the Isle of Man famous for? Besides our vintage, it's the TT. I know there's a display which is fantastic in the Manx Museum this year, but it really is an own goal for the island. The fact that we haven't got a designated 24/7, 365 TT museum which would bring people here off season. You can imagine it with virtual reality and exhibits, and
well, we have got the motor museum at Derby, which is outstanding, and gold stars all round there. But for the TT and the MGP, we just need to turn up the gas a little bit. So even when you're travelling around the course, not everyone that visits the Isle of Man knows exactly what it is. So why not have a few monuments, maybe a picture of a motorbike on those, like signs for the corners and stuff.
Okay, thanks, Stuart.
Andy, just before you go, just 2 points there before you cut us off. You're talking about the Charles Gar video, David, there, and you said that it woke people up, but it doesn't seem to have woken government up or the council. I mean, as you said, you were on the prom last night. Probably passed you eating tapas there and on the prom, but the railings are still off. I mean, how long ago was this video done now, Andy? And the railings are still lying. If someone sues the council because they're lying there, half on, half off, where's that going to look like in the papers? Nothing's actually got done. It might have woke people up for a little while. Nothing's actually got done. And the other little thing, just before I go, is also the condition of some of the Manx National Heritage sites. Again, I don't know what you guys think about that, because I take people, when I have them over with me, I take them round the sites and show them the sites and show them the history of the Isle of Man. And things like that, the little things that you're kind of embarrassed about when you go into these places that I think could be picked up on.
Can I just come in there?
Yeah.
On that one? I think we can all walk round and find faults. I'll just give one that I saw this morning, so we're up to date. You go past Tynwald Hill, and there's a big sign there just saying, "Get off the grass." Use the steps. And you think, hang on, it's not an issue. Let's look and be welcoming and positive and send the right message. And we do need to, modernise what we do. You look at some of the heritage sites and they're looking a little bit tired. But this is about pride and identity, and we need a minister. We need a personality. We need a face to take a grip of tourism and actually take control and take ownership and bring the Isle of Man public with them. Because at the moment, and I'll say this, we're missing the F word. There is no fun being sent out. There's no message. There's nothing new. And that is what we've got to correct.
Okay, we're with Jed Power. Thanks, Stuart. We're with Jed Power and Dave Mackey, tourism professionals on the Isle of Man, talking about tourism on the Isle of Man. And I'll just throw in I'm not allowed to, but I'll tell you my opinion. Just you talked about a TT museum. How about a dedicated museum for things that you could only have on the Isle of Man? So, TT museum, a Bee Gees museum, and I know Barry Gibb is more than happy. They've got lots of stage wear and everything that Barry Gibb would readily donate to the Isle of Man? How about a Radio Caroline museum? It'd be the only one in the world. How about something about Norman Wisdom and George Formby? Imagine that, a massive museum with the TT, the Bee Gees, Radio Caroline, Norman Wisdom and George Formby. Imagine how many markets that would cut across.
I had amazing service from the Guernsey Bank Skipton International this week. It's not often you get to speak to a real human. Their follow-up was fantastic, and switching my savings account was so easy and quick.
Is that why you chose Skipton?
No, I saw how competitive their savings rates are, so I gave them a call on 01481 730 730. Turns out it was easier than I thought to move my account to Skipton.
Skipton International is licensed to take deposits by the Guernsey Financial Services Commission and is a participant in the Guernsey Banking Deposit Compensation Scheme. Details at dcs.gg. Terms and conditions apply.
Do you run a business? Think Nicola Bowker & Co. Need an accountant? Think Nicola Bowker & Co. Do you want accounts you can trust? Think Nicola Bowker & Co. All businesses, whatever your size, call today for a free initial chat.
Discover a fabulous range of watches, gifts and jewellery at Ramsey Art Gallery with top brand watches from Bulova, Citizen Eco Drive and Storm to Acura, Seconda and Timex. Plus, all watch purchases come with free lifetime watch bracelet adjustment service. There's stunning gold and silver jewellery, gifts for all occasions, and of course a fabulous gallery of limited edition prints and original artworks. Find all this and more at Ramsey Art Gallery, Jewellers and Engravers, opposite Ramsey RNLI shop.
6 incredible albums and a worldwide record deal have made Nathan Carter one of country music's brightest stars. And now you can catch him live at the Gaiety Theatre on September 14th. Book now for Nathan Carter and his band with special guest Claudia Buckley at villagaiety.com or on 600 Channel 5. Presented by RS Promotions and supported by your nation station, Manx Radio.
After a long spell on the road, FC Isle of Man are back on Manx soil this weekend and hoping to make a winning return to the bowl in the NWCFL Premier Division. The Ravens welcome Prestwich Hayes to the island on Saturday evening, with the hosts hoping to rediscover their form in front of a home crowd. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Sam Palmer for FC Isle of Man versus Prestwich Hayes this Saturday, kicking off at 6 p.m. Manx Radio will be providing full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And talking of FC Isle of Man, they bring lots and lots of tourists to the Isle of Man. With that, I mean, that's a new phenomenon. FC Isle of Man's been a big success, hasn't it, Jed? This
is a big opportunity for the shoulder season, the winter months. Let's have some packages to get the fans over, because everyone loves a trip to follow the team, and it's there. It's absolutely begging for it. You know, let's have low cost beer, low cost fares. You know, start the adventure, and we could have loads of cash coming in.
Okay. Hi, Michael. You're live on the air.
Faster, Andy, Jed, Dave. How are you doing?
Hi, Michael.
Hello there.
Hi. Pretty much agreeing with most of the things that people are saying, but just a couple more counters to what Mark and his points. The restaurants, the Heritage Railway, the pretty much anything you do leisure-wise on the Isle of Man is supported by tourism, and without it, our lives would be very, very different, and much the worse for that. He imagines that there's no tourism over here, but actually, everybody on the island is involved in tourism. And everybody can help promote it.
And I think the point was made by a politician a couple of years ago, I think during COVID, is that without what they call the infrastructure of tourism, life will be worse for everybody else, because it's the tourists, the number of tourists that come to the Isle of Man that put money into restaurants and cafes and hotels.
Absolutely. If you talk to any restaurateur, their busy months are during the summer. And they probably couldn't survive 12 months, and certainly is the truth for hotel accommodation. He made the points about TT and Manx Grand Prix, but if we didn't have a tourist industry, we wouldn't be able to support them at all, because there would be no hotels, very few restaurants, nothing for the bikers to do between the breaks between the races. So,
okay. And if you could answer me, answer me one vital question, Michael, if you would. How come you've got festoon lights on Empress Drive and Empire Terrace and they disappeared from the prom?
But we all climbed a lamppost each and refused to let them take them down.
All right, thanks for being with us, Michael. It's good to hear.
That's a good point, Adji. Actually, a lot of people complained, even though there was a questionnaire sent out about the festoon lighting. It is still there around the drives area. So if you want to have a walk round and have a meal with Michael or have a meal at the Ascot, the festoon lighting is still there.
All right, good to hear from you. A message in just regarding you. What you're talking about, the race to the bottom, and we don't want to do that, Jed. So, is it quality, not quantity, we want? Are we in the business of budget holidays on the Isle of Man?
We've got to cover all bases, and we can provide that. Because the guy talked about a trip to Rome for 300 quid. Well, I'd be struggling to see what the quality of the room is and so forth. But on the island, there's something for everyone. We've got camping right up to, bespoke 4-star hotel. So, it's there for the taking.
Just tell me then, Dave, we've just got lots of calls to get to, but I want to go back to Mark and the perception then that some people might have that we don't have a tourism industry. I mean, can you forgive people who have that view because they may not see them?
Myself personally, no, because I think as Michael alluded to earlier, we are all exponents of Isle of Man PLC. We can all do our bit to promote the island by being positive and seeing the good side of things. And negativity and putting the island down just doesn't do anybody any favours whatsoever. So no, I like I said before, tourism these days isn't in your face. It's not full of kiss me quick hats and stag parties and all that, and we don't want that kind of tourism.
I think also because we've all seen the iconic photos of 35,000 people on Douglas Beach. Well, the people on the beach are in Peel and in Port Erin. They're not in Douglas anymore, so the vast majority of people wouldn't see that.
It's a bit like the TT, Andy. I mean, going back historically 30, 40 years, there were 25, 30,000 bikes in Douglas. They were all stacked up next to each other. The whole island gets a slice of the pie now because everyone's spread around, and it's the same with tourism as well.
Okay, Eric, you're live on the air.
Hi, I'd just like to say we have something here that you can't get in England, and that's affordable golf. I've just been away in the European Disabled Tournament for 3 weeks, and the average price on the golf courses are between 70 and 90 quid. Most are over £100, and some of them are £175. And I can tell you, our golf courses match up to any of the golf courses. So this thing about having to pay £500 on the boat, when you get here and you can go onto a golf course and play for 35 or 40 quid, that's a big difference to what you've got in England.
Okay, Jed?
Eric scored a hole in one there. Congratulations. Yeah, in a nutshell, we're gifted with 8 courses and great value. So it's a fantastic destination. And, I've brought thousands of golfers to the island over 10 years. It's a formula that works.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Good to hear from you. Here's Howard with us now. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Now, just listen to what you were saying there before about the an all categories museum. Immediately the thought goes to where you're going to build it in Douglas, but you don't have to. You can build it anywhere on the island. And as the old saying goes, if we build it, they will come. And the people now are coming to the island in their own vehicles, and they have the ability to travel much easier. And of course, you can use your bus passes, etc., and run around the island for a week or more. But that is a first-class idea, and we're going to have to take the silo thinking out of the Department for Enterprise. We got one classic example there now, and I like the vessel, but when they're looking for 6-point-something million for one item to shelter one item, the Peggy. Now that 6.1 million, which will be more eventually, could go to a multi-purpose museum, entertainment centre museum somewhere on the island, not necessarily Douglas. There's a vast scope there, and the people, as I said, they have the ability to travel. So everybody automatically thinks, but many years ago, as you say, the tourist industry in the late 60s, 70s was fading away with the people travelling to Spain and warmer climes. But nowadays, you try and get on an aeroplane, you're about 2 to 3 hours before you'd even get in and get off and back again. It's becoming a bit of a pain. Whereas you can go up to the steam packet or even fly across here for a very reasonable amount, providing you book in good time. But at least you're coming to something that's different. And I do voluntary on one particular item that's part of the tourist industry. And only a week or so ago, there was a chap and his family were here. He said, "You've got so many things here on the island," he said, "but we didn't know about them because they're not advertised."
You're at the Camera Obscura, aren't you, Howard?
Yeah. And I love every minute of it. And this will be an excellent day for it. But where we have the problem with volunteers, it's run by the Victorian Society, and none of us are getting any younger. But that is unique in Britain, not just here on the island. It's unique in Britain. But this chap, apart from that, there's a myriad of other things on the island that are unique. And this is where the island is losing out because there's nobody there to promote it. The tourist industry should be the tourist industry, not another leg, another branch of the leisure and what they call themselves,
enterprise.
Yeah, because they're more interested in looking at what they can do, what they can't do, whereas the tourist industry is fighting tooth and nail to remain alive.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Howard.
Thanks, then.
You were saying, Dave, how many Camera Obscuras?
I think there's only 5 left in the UK now, so we're one of 5 that's still up and running.
And the Victorian Society would like to mention they only take cash because they're in the Victorian era. Tom, we've got a question in now. Could you ask your guests what they think of motorhome holidays, Dave?
I don't like motorhomes because I'm a hotelier at heart. So I always see motorhomes as anti-hotel enemies. I think I'm not a fan of them personally. If the lady's thinking is that something we could grow as if you've got one on the island, it's nice to go away for the weekend and go to the Point of Ayr and see.
So do you think we should be promoting the Isle of Man as a motorhome destination?
No.
Okay, Jed?
I think we've got to focus on car clubs, our petrol heritage, our TT course, and bring those kind of tourists over first. And I think that is all year round, and it's having that TT theme right across the board. I think that's vital.
You mentioned the Derby Motor Museum. There are very few motor museums like that. I mean, whenever I've taken anybody there, their eyes just open like saucers.
It's one of the best collections in the world, and everyone should give it a try. Let's make it accessible. Let's have a bus service that goes up there, but that's another story.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back to some calls now. David's on now. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy and the team there. Just wanted to say, we were out. I've got a little small minibus I run for charitable services, and we were out at St. John's when they were all the people from the boat were bussed out and climbing up and down the hill. I think they were just asked just to be careful going up and down the hill instead of routing the steps. But the biggest thing I had from them was when these big coaches are coming on now for older people to be having holidays later in the season we've got nowhere for these vehicles to park to let people off in central areas. Because I know for a fact the one at Peel, the big one, coach came to Peel, dropped them all off on the prom and so forth, then had to go to the Kipper Yard to actually park, and then everybody had to walk. I was talking to a few people there were walking then, and it's quite long for people who are quite elderly to go from Peel Promenade and right round there to the House of Mannin and then back over to the fish yards to be picked up. But like you say, somebody needs to coordinate it all, put it together.
Well, do you think there should be a tourism minister, David?
Well, I wouldn't want any more ministers, to tell you the truth, but there should be some head guru. You can call him whatever you want. I don't want the minister for fun, because we want to make sure that the sport on the island, from football, hockey, netball, basketball, all those things can happen all the year round. Then we can fill the hotels in. And just to support the hotelier too, there is a need for somewhere for motorhomes, but we need to put it in a place. Do you remember the Claddocks? We were going to do something up the Claddocks. Remember?
And then?
Sulby Claddocks. Remember the fella off the toilet block?
Yes, they did, didn't they? Yeah.
then they never. I was talking to the fella. They never took up the option. That's government not even interacting. Can you surprise when things don't happen? But the steam packet now, we can bring back the tournament and get them in that hotel down on the prom.
Okay, thanks,
boys?
David. Good to hear from you. Yeah, do you remember the steam packet pre-season football tournament that used to be?
That's right. Yeah. In the summer,
it was.
We at the Ascot we had West Bromwich Albion and Wrexham
and it was. I mean, for those who don't, I mean, I think the last one must have been 10, 15 years ago.
I think it's longer than that. Andy.
They used to get a half a dozen, maybe 8 teams over from the UK. The Isle of Man representative team. They play a little mini knockout. And I remember Bolton Wanderers came over prior to when they were going in the Premier League, and it just brought people over who wouldn't think of coming over.
Watford came over one year with Graham. What was his
Taylor.
name? Graham Taylor. Yeah.
And Scottish teams used to come.
St Mirren. Yeah.
And one of the phrases you often hear in marketing is a barrier to entry. It's getting people over the step to come to the Isle of Man. Now, obviously, you run a niche business, Jed, and golfers is kind of a lateral hobby in that golfers are the same all the world over. They all play the same game. So you've got a hook to bring people in there. What else do you think we can do to draw people? Is it petrol heads? Is it golf? Is it Viking heritage? Is it Victorian heritage? How do we work on that, Jed?
I think a couple of themes on the list of big missed opportunities. We've got the sports, we've got the hockey teams that were successful in the past and so forth. And I think, the opportunity for that is missed completely. I think we could really cover the winter months with some packages that involve, take the VAT off beer in summer months and things like that. I really think the Victoriana theme, almost like we need to change it to like a H.G. Wells kind of view. So we talked about the Camera Obscura, we've got the steam trains, we've got the Lexi Wheel. It needs bringing together like that and perhaps just ramping up a bit.
So is that the private sector's job, or is that the public sector? Is that Visit Isle of Man?
You've got to have people with skin in the game who just don't switch their computer off at 5 p.m. and go. If you're in tourism, you live it 24/7. You've got the belief, the passion and the drive. And unfortunately, we've got this dichotomy where the people perhaps who need to move things can't move things quick enough.
Okay, I just want to mention also an elephant in the room, and that's Tours Isle of Man. And the fact that the state operator, Bus Vannin's got the contract for the cruise liners. We're talking about 5 dozen cruises a year that are coming as well. So that would seem to eliminate possibilities for Tours Isle of Man.
The Isle of Man sends out a message that they want to stimulate private enterprise, and we hear that week in, week out in the various news items and so forth. And this isn't the case. If you're a private operator and you're wanting to, say, put some money into new vehicles, a new business, how can you do that when you're up against a state-funded, massive, unaccountable bus service that has somehow had to diversify its way into cruise ship tours, double-decker buses? Dave, you deal with these cruise ship visitors. What's it like, when they're getting shepherded onto, what was a school bus, say, an hour ago?
It's not ideal, is it? Let's be honest. If you're trying to sell bespoke tours to the island and they're getting on a bus. I mean, Dave can't cope with the volume at the moment. I believe that's what it is. Maybe if he was given some sort of contract, he could supply the necessary vehicles.
But there's no incentive, is there? Why would you buy a new vehicle? And this is right, not just for one particular firm that we're talking about. There are other firms. Why would you bother when you're up against that?
So. And bearing in mind that a lot of the tour passengers, the cruise passengers, they're paying for short trips, aren't they? They aren't free. They're paying for trips, and so they get off. They pay, I don't know, however many pounds for a trip, and they jump onto a double-decker bus, a state double-decker bus. It doesn't ooze luxury, does it, Dave?
No, it doesn't. But again, that's one of these sort of myths that's out there that cruise ship passengers, there's no money for the island. Yes, there is. They're using the heritage sites. They pay for the tours. We as guides encourage them to spend in local businesses and shops. There was a large cruise ship out the other day, and I don't know if anybody was in town at the time, that was full of American tourists all in our shops and our coffee shops and restaurants, knocking about the art. It was good to see.
Okay, we're with Dave Mackey and Jed Power talking tourism today on Mannin Line.
In our quest to remove all single-use plastic from our milk packaging, Isle of Man Creamery cartons, including the new 1.75 litre carton, are now 100% recyclable, made from sustainable and renewable sources. We're the first in the British Isles to offer these new large cartons, and you can pick them up now in local retailers or add them to your Isle of Man Creamery doorstep delivery. Plant-based cartons from Isle of Man Creamery. Better for the environment, better for you.
Do you know a scrap man? 'Cause I've got scrap to clear. Causing copper, brass and lead, and I need cash for beer.
What? You don't know a scrap man? Gustains of Foxtel is the one for you. Gustains will take all scrap metal and is also licensed for dry cell and lead acid batteries. So don't delay. Ring 801 337 now.
So now we know a scrap man and all our scrap's been cleared. Ring 801 337, then have cash for beer. Call cost dice a day and get yourself a beer.
Above deck or below, Harbour Marine Services has all your boating needs in one place. From engine sales and servicing to charts, books, dinghies and trailers, electronics, navigation, ropes, rigging and safety. Over 2,000 square feet of stock to help you stay safe on the water. Call 822 995 or find us on Facebook. For all your chandlery supplies, set your course to Harbour Marine Services, next to Castle Down Harbour.
There are times in politics when you think you'd be happy if the earth would just swallow you up, and I'm sure Chief Minister Alf Cannon might have thought that at the July sitting at Tynwald. Back now from a refreshing summer break, he's raring to go and keen to deliver on his government's much-discussed plans and strategies. 2 years in, though, does he have any successes to point to? Find out on Perspective this Sunday at 12 noon on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. With the government conference taking place in less than a fortnight, find out why you should attend. Minister bashing aside, there are some great debates lined up and opportunities to question key government figures too. Who knows, they might even listen to you.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And Jed Power and Dave Mackey now. Alan, you're live with Jed and Dave. Alan, you're live with Jed and Dave. Or maybe not. Thanks for that. It's Alan. This is Alan. Hi, Alan.
Hiya. Hiya, Dave and Jed.
Deaf, Alan. We're all deaf. Thanks very much.
Right. I just want to confirm something I think Jed said earlier on in the show. I've just been down Portering Village, and there's a big coach in there now from Somerset, and the sign on the front of it is Isle of Man Railway trips.
Yeah, that makes sense. That'll be one of the package deals that's here.
To come from that far, I mean, they must have had a 6 or 7 hour journey up the motorway.
Those are the lengths, the railway offering is unique. It's fabulous. We've got the halfway horse tram and all that, but people enjoy it, and it's not just about the railways. It's about the tour around the island and all it has to offer. And beautiful Port Erin Beach will be in all its glory today.
Okay, all right.
It will. I was up in Ramsey on Wednesday, and when I came back, I passed one of the electric railways as well. I've never, ever in my life seen so many people on that thing. It reminded me of those old films with the Indian trains. The only thing that was missing was people on the roof.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. It's good to hear from you. Dave, you said you'd taken a genealogy to Derby, is that right?
Yeah, similar to what the lady was saying before. This is a family from Canada. They were from the Kane family, which they're in Derby. So I've been doing a bit of digging the last few days, so I'll be doing that on Monday. There's a lot of those historical tours or people who had family members in internment camps. Lots of that.
Like I was going to say, Knockalo's suddenly become a destination as well.
You must go. You're going to ask me about places to go and see, Andy. The Knockalo Visitor Centre is magnificent. Honestly, it really is. It's private enterprise. Old Patrick School. It's marvellous what they've done there.
I was going to say. So now we're coming to the end now. So to residents of the Isle of Man, what are the things that they should take their visitors to, friends and relatives who come to the Isle of Man? Not just the ordinary stuff, but out of the ordinary.
I'll give
the Knockalo Visitor Centre.
Knockalo Visitor Centre for one. I'll tell you what I did last week for the first time as well, Andy. I scrabbled along Derby Beach and I found the shipwreck of the Passages, which ran aground there in 1931, and she's still there. It's eerily. There was no loss of life, so it's not like you're trespassing on a graveyard. It's magnificent. It's 93 years it's been there, and the history of it was, she was a First World War what they call cruise bomb, land mines.
A minesweeper.
Minesweeper. That's the word I'm looking for. She was a minesweeper, so that's something unusual. It's a bit of a hike. It's about a mile along the beach, but it's worth it.
And Jed?
I could go through the list, but as a special, it always depends what your audience is, and you give it a big build-up when you get there. Magnetic Hill. If you haven't tried it up the Colby Glen Road, give it a whirl. It defies science, and it is such a lot of fun.
I do that on some of my tours, and I actually get out
funny.
the car, and the car's disappearing up the hill, and people are like, "What is going on here?"
We were talking about golf, and again, the moment you start talking about things appear. Out of the window of Manx Radio, we see the old Fort Anne Hotel golf course. The Fort Anne Hotel had a golf course, Jed, yeah?
Yes, it did. I mean, that area, along Marine Drive is just stupendous, isn't it? And you think how clever and innovative the Victorians were and what they did right along that stretch. And, Marine Drive, it should be super special. It should be a place to go. But what have we got? It's a bit of a mess.
Okay, thanks for being with us today, Dave Mackey and Jed Power. Well, in a couple of weeks' time, in early October, Deborah Heather's going to be here with Ranald Corwell. Deborah's the chief exec, Ranald's the chair of Visit Isle of Man. We don't have a Department of Tourism anymore, but Visit Isle of Man are tasked with getting people to the Isle of Man and satisfying them. I hope we've stimulated some conversation today. If you want to follow up on anything, drop me a note, Mannin Line at manxradio.com, or call the answer phone on 682 631. Stick around, Clark is on the way after 1. Have a great weekend.
W